Welcome to Scarves and Spikes.
Welcome to the Scarves and Spikes. Let's try that again. Welcome to the Scarves and Spikes, everyone. Sydney and Tyler with you. Tommy, unfortunately, unable to join. Had a power out of this place and unable to come on. He is okay. He is fine, but he'll be back with us next time. Tyler, how's it going?
Good. I'm glad that I'm not the one roasting in the heat right now. Normally, my air conditioning is the one that's broken, and everybody else is good. So I'll give it to Tommy for today.
Summer is upon us. Well, not officially summer, but summer is close.
This is first summer.
Essentially is. Once you get up, Memorial Day is essentially summer, right? So for all intents and purposes.
In Georgia, yes. Yes, this is the first of like 4 summers.
Right. Yeah, no kidding. But yeah, thanks everybody for joining us, whether you're watching on the live stream or listening on the podcast. We are happy to have you with us. Jason Longshore joining us here a little bit later in the show. Of course, we got a little news to talk about with the Pineda firing, so we'll get his thoughts on that and kind of pick his brain a little about the state of Valentin. And of course, these transfer rumors, including Gigi, we'll get his thoughts on that as well. But you guys know what to do. Patreon.com/Scarves and Spikes. Thanks to those who back us on Patreon every single day, every single month. We really appreciate your support. If you're not a part of that, go to patreon.com/Scarves and Spikes.
Help keep Tommy's light bill on.
Yeah, exactly. No kidding. $1.70 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month. It's just pennies a day, really. So go ahead and stop by there. If you're not subscribed on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe to us on YouTube. At the time of this show, we are just so close, Tyler, to 1,000 subscribers. So join us there if you have not already, if you're new to the show, or maybe if you've been listening or watching for a while and haven't done it yet. What are you waiting for? Get on it. And of course, Scarves, yes, in the words of Shia LaBeouf.
Subscribe, do it.
Just
tell all your friends.
Yes.
Tell all your friends.
Let everybody know. Let everybody know, even your enemies. And of course, scarvesandspikes.com for all the latest Atlanta United news. So, Tyler, we did a whole show the other day when the news came out about Pineda. So, I don't know if we're going to tread on that ground too much over the next few minutes before Jason joins us. So, not much in the Giakoumakis rumor mill as of this current point in time. They still going on between them or his side of the party and Cruz Azul. So we're kind of taking a look at that. But it seems like it's maybe not a matter of if at this point, but a matter of when. I know there's some skepticism out there that this deal might not happen, but it sounds like both parties agree that this is the best deal for them. And we talked about it. If you make a return on a player with his kind of health history, I should say, I mean, go for it. I mean, you got him for 6? You have the chance to sell him for 10 and make nearly half of what you made back. So, you hate to see him go, but I mean, again, it makes sense for both sides. Go ahead and do it and get yourself an open DP slot. Of course, you have no coach, but you do have kind of that structure between Garth Lagerwey and Carlos Bocanegra. You can probably still make a move and bring somebody in that can really elevate this team. And there are some rumors that Racing Club could be interested in purchasing Santiago Sosa outright. So I'll give you a U22 spot. So I guess what do you think? What's been on your mind over these past couple of days?
I think that you have to make the moves. I think Giakoumakis is a great player. I think he fit in here when he needed to. But you're looking at a guy who's played maybe 60% of the minutes that he should have played, right?
Yeah.
Because of injury. And that's, it happens. That's nothing against him. But this all essentially began because he's looking for a payday. And we had already heard from Lagerwey that they were in a contract negotiation, which tells you he's looking for more money, which is fine.
Yeah.
But when a new club comes along and says, hey, we're going to pay you this, and then goes back and forth with the actual club itself, with Atlanta United, saying, hey, we'll pay you almost double what you paid for him. Considering all the history and everything else, I mean, you would kind of be crazy to not take that deal. And you can't be mad at Gigi. I mean, he's going to make, again, probably 1.5 times, if not double what he's making right now. So take it. Like, dude, go make money for your family and open up this DP spot for Atlanta. And if Atlanta uses it in this summer transfer window, cool. But I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't. And either way, you're setting yourself up for giving whoever the new coach happens to be, whether it's Rob, if he sticks around, or whoever, a little bit to work with whenever they do get here.
Yeah, and it's $2.248 million he's projected to make in 2024. You wonder how much more Cruz Azul are going to pay him. You wonder, we mentioned this a little bit, I think on Monday, and then the other day when these rumors just started to come out, started to heat up. How much you have the injury history, and has that spooked Atlanta United? Has that scared him off from making a longer term investment into this player? He has this bulky hamstring that has hung him up, but he's still been productive mostly in the times that he's been out in the field. Seems like over this last stretch of time, though, he's kind of been a little bit more frustrated. The chances start coming. He's not getting the service that he wants or needs to be an effective striker, or to be at the effect that he wants to be. But at the same time, he wants to be out there. He wants to play. He wants to not go somewhere where he's wanted, because he's certainly wanted Atlanta, and he's certainly been embracing Atlanta. But at the same time, it is a business, and I think Atlanta would much rather go with a player that can perform at a higher level more consistently from a fitness standpoint than somebody who can perform at a high level but still has a big question mark of the hamstring that hasn't really gone away. So I think you have to look at it as, hey, do we want to win this year? Do we still think we could get something out of this year? Or do we just kind of push our chips to 2025? And I think that's the big decision that Garth Lagerwey and Carlos Bocanegra need to make, with this potentially opening up DP slot. I feel like, maybe they're not too far gone this season where you can make the playoffs. I mean, 9 teams make it in each conference. So that's going to drive their decision making. But you have to keep in mind, too, the new coach is going to want to really have a tactical say in who this player is. And again, and by the way, it's a striker. I mean, just have your target man up top, your man that can lead the line consistently and have him score goals for you. I mean, I don't know if there's really quote unquote tact involved in that, so to speak. You know what I mean? Just get with a striker.
I think it depends on the type of striker that you're looking for, though, and it also depends on what you want to do with this team going forward. Because if you really think about it, Garth Lagerwey is in like a multiple crossroads right now, because you have Valentino who's there, and you need to give him time. You can't judge him on the first, 6-8 games, because you've got such a cluster in terms of the scheduling and Copa America, the Olympics, Euros, like everything going on. It's unfair to judge
Yeah.
Rob Valentino going forward. So you got to give him time. But then if you do get rid of Giakoumakis, which again, all signs kind of point to that happening, whether it does or not, we'll see. But like I see Zilf saying in the chat, this is something I was talking with John earlier in Soccer Down Here, but like, do you replace your DP without a manager? Are you, as a Garth Lagerwey, are you that for sure of the type of manager that you want to sign that you would be confident signing a DP that you think will fit that manager going forward? And I just don't think that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, but again, do you feel like at this point the season is too far gone where you can't make a run? It's probably the half full in me speaking this, but I don't know if the season is completely down the drain. I mean, the roster doesn't or the standings don't say, or you tell a different story. I know what you're saying. A lot of the players are going to be gone for Copa, for Euro. So I totally get what you're saying. But then again, you're only 3 points back of a playoff spot. You're not the only team that has players going away. So I think it's sort of, in some respects, a wait and see. If things completely go off the rails, maybe I mean, for lack of a better term, I know you don't use the word tank in soccer too much because there's no benefit in doing so outside of a draft spot. And I mean, how much weight does the
relative
draft have in MLS anyway? But do you kind of, like I said, just say this season is not a loss, but this season is kind of a reboot, so to speak, where we totally set our sights in 2025. And Atlanta United fans,
I don't think so. I think you have to go forward trusting in Garth, because Garth is the guy that, regardless of whoever is here at the end of the day, he's going to be the one making the decisions. So, I mean, absolutely, your new manager has a say in that. But I also agree. I don't think this season is over. I think this season is tough, and I think you do have a hill to climb, but you're not that far out of a playoff spot. Like you can handle business, and again, against teams that also are losing players, and maybe make something happen. Is it going to be easy? Not even kind of.
no.
Not even kind of. You're in a grave right now, and you've got to dig yourself out of it. And injuries, yeah, I see like Joe in the chat saying, Steon's injured. Ben saying the season's definitely not thrown out. We're not the only team hurt by international tournaments, but definitely hurt more than most. Yeah, you gotta put everything into Open Cup, because potentially, you could make it to the Open Cup final and only play one MLS team in the entire tournament.
Right?
So
yeah,
you've got to take advantage of what you have, and you have to go into every match expecting to win, because Supporter Shield's gone. Like, the Wolves get that straight. Supporter Shield's out the window. But you could still pull this season around immensely.
I think the Open Cup point is a very good one. It's one that we've made numerous times. Yeah, you have a chance at a Champions Club. I can't say it. Champions Cup spot. If you win that, well, you don't get a chance if you win it. You're in it if you win it. So that's still up in the air. But what does the Open Cup schedule look like? I mean, I just got to pull it up. You play Indy 11 coming up, and then, like you said, Tyler, there's a world where the semifinal has another USL Championship team, and then the final, the figures will be MLS. But that's still out there. I think as a whole, maybe,
or you play your MLS team in the semifinal, and you don't have an MLS team in the final, possibly.
I mean, it's happened before, but it's not. Yeah, I wouldn't count on it, but I mean, there's still some goals. I think that's what we're trying to say. There's still some goals on the table for this team. It's not, you're not going to win like 3 trophies or anything like that. There's Leagues Cup as well. I don't think Leagues Cup is, in question for this team. I don't think they're going to win that. But it's going to be an interesting summer, and what this team does, considering no manager, potentially no GG. If Almada has a terrific Olympics, teams are going to be beating out the door overseas looking to get his services. So interesting summer, a lot going on. I mean, I don't imagine this is the last time we'll have this discussion coming up, but interested to see what happens. We
to lay it out real quick.
Yeah.
To lay it out real quick in the Open Cup, you mentioned you're playing Indy 11 on July 9th, which is here, and then you would play either the winner of SKC or FC Dallas.
SKC, who might be without a manager,
right?
Inside the semifinals, or Dallas. Dallas.
So you'll play that one away, but then you have to play. So you have Sacramento Republic versus Seattle, and Sacramento is fully capable. Yeah. I'm telling y'all now, fully capable of beating Seattle as it stands right now. Sacramento's a good team. Yeah. And then LAFC versus New Mexico. I told John this morning on Soccer Down Here, like I am fully yellow and black when it comes to that New Mexico LAFC game. I want New Mexico to beat the pants off of LAFC. Right. So yeah, I mean, you might play. Well, you will play if you beat Indy, either SKC or FC Dallas. I kind of hope SKC, but they're also like weird Open Cup, like that's their strength for some reason. So whatever, I'll take them. And then, it could be Sacramento or New Mexico in the final, which would be wild.
Right. I'm for it. I'm here for it. Real quick, we didn't talk about, all the stuff with Pineda and all that. We didn't get to the uncle, the discussion around that. I mean, I'm still saying, and someone in the chat mentioned it. I'm still saying that it's no goal. Andrew Weeby has been on the show before, a good friend of the show. That instant replay, it was saved off the line. It didn't fully cross the line, which I agree with. I don't know if you can. That call in the field is so critical, right? Because again, you need clear and obvious evidence to the contrary. And like in other leagues, the terminology is indisputable visual evidence. In football, it's soccer. It's clear and obvious. You don't have a clear and obvious way of noting where that ball's all the way across the line. It has to be all the way across. None of the ball is able to touch the white in order for the goal to count. And to I saw it as some of that ball was a little bit of that ball was touching white, a little bit of the ball, enough to change the call. It's just tough. And you talk about judgment calls, the red card against Gazan against LAFC. You can see that as a judgment call. I feel like that would be a judgment call. I feel like VAR made a judgment call, so saying, "Hey, one VAR, one referee might think it's on the line, another might think it's all the way across or enough across where it could be a goal, but it's just nowhere to tell from the angles that I've seen. VAR or the official when Doug Robertson from the agency did the poll report when he asked the referee afterwards, why did it count? They said there was an angle that they had access to tell that it came across the line. I don't see it. I don't know where the angle is. I'm not sure. Do they have another video angle that no one else has access to, where you have a camera down the line seeing it? I just don't know. I don't know.
That's the thing. I mean, so taking into account everything that everybody except for the VAR and apparently the head ref saw, you cannot overturn that call. That call was made by the AR, who is in line. I see like Ben saying, the ref can't see the ball crossing the line from his POV. AR can't see it either. Probably went in. Well, the AR is the one that's in charge of that call. And I'll tell you right now, 100%, I think it went in. But
I don't know.
I think it went in. Josh Cohen in the locker room told us he felt like it didn't go in, but as a goalkeeper, what are you going to say? Like, oh yeah. But the angles that we've seen, you can't turn that over. Now, if there is the angle, which I'm sure there probably is, I think that's a little ridiculous. But I'm sure there is an angle to where it shows something closer to goal line technology, even though they don't have goal line technology. Why not show it? Why not show it? That's my irritation. Why do we have VAR? Why do we have all these camera angles and you won't show them in the stadium or even on the broadcast? Just show it. Just show it and let everybody see it. And it just, whether you're right or wrong, it doesn't seem as if you're just blatantly holding up something that's not true, because at the end of the day, the rule says you have to have clear and obvious evidence to reverse the call. And now had it been called not a goal, I don't think there would have been enough to call it a goal. So it just, that's where I get irritated, man. Like, you got VAR, you have all this technology in place, show everybody and quit acting like you're some secret squirrel organization that, you only allow one person to see it. I get the head ref is the only one that can make the decision. Show the angle to everybody. Grow a pair. Like, if you want to make the call and reverse it 4 minutes after it happened, show everybody.
I feel like it's going to take a match of significant repute to have them start the discussion of goal line technology in MLS. I really think so. And there could be certain teams that, if it happens to them, there could be a discussion about goal line technology. I think you need it in situations like that. But, going back to the judgment call discussion, and just waiting for Jason to come in here in just a moment, talking about the judgment call discussion, I think the AR is total judgment call, because how's the AR going to know from what they see from their vantage point if that ball went across? And you can't really see it because you have so many things blocking that line of vision. So if the call is goal, would it still have counted as goal? I don't know. I think the goal has been awarded as call, to be honest with you. But then again, the ball would have to have been, well across the line. When I say well across the line, I mean like a centimeter more. But at the same time, I think, it's still a judgment call if you're an AR. It's just so tough. And I can sympathize with the AR and having to be stuck in that situation. But that's why there's VAR, right? To look back and say, hey, was this the right call in this moment? If not, do we have stonewall evidence to say that it's not? And I don't know if you had that. So we get after this discussion all day, but
the thing is,
it's going to change the call.
There is only one person on the pitch that is in a position to make that call. And the same people have been doing it the same way for over 100 years. So if it's that confusing of a look when you go and look at a camera, probably don't need to be changing anything. That's my 2 cents. But I'm going to get off that soapbox because it drives me crazy.
Yeah. We should do a whole show about VAR for the review.
That would have to be a Patreon episode. That would not be rated PG or anything related to what
exactly.
on YouTube.
Exactly. And everybody else probably. Jason Longshore is here. Jason,
what's up, y'all?
Cold
intro. Yeah, hey, it happens. Don't invite me to the VAR show, please.
Right.
You sure?
Are you sure?
I'd like to not somehow get fined by the league.
Right.
I don't think they can. I don't want to find out. So, yeah, I don't want to have anything to do with that episode. That'll be you guys.
I'm teetering on the edge of a fine as we speak.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure they'll find a way. Like, I don't know. They'll make us stay out in the cold again in Toronto. I don't know. We'll come up with something.
But no, always glad to have Jason back with us. Requires no introduction at all. Radio commentator for Atlanta United, 1990 The Game, godfather of Atlanta soccer.
I still hate Kevin Egan started calling me that.
Oh yeah.
I like that Aberdeen shirt, by the way.
The Aberdeen.
Yeah, old school Aberdeen. Picked this up. God, I think I got it from. It wasn't from Classic Football Shirts. It was from a similar place in Portugal. And it's the 95. It's the one that Glassy wore when they won the Scottish Cup.
Okay.
Not this legit shirt, but the style anyway.
Well, yeah. That would be even cooler.
That would be craziness. No, I don't have that one.
But No, thanks for coming on. Always
Yeah.
appreciate you stopping by. Always appreciate your insight, your
I'm
analysis
watching
of the Lady United.
TST and hanging out on a Wednesday. So, it's all good.
Ditto.
A-
I gotta
as
ask
of-
you real quick. I gotta ask you real
Yeah.
quick. PST. I know you watched the Sergio Aguero match.
Mm-hmm.
So when are they bringing back Brendan Lamb? Back to the team?
He's got 2 more years at Virginia, which is crazy. He looks a lot different than he did when he was with the Twos.
Yes,
He
he
has filled out a little bit. That college meal plan has been good to him. College weight room has been good to him as well. Look, he's a contender for a homegrown deal. I mean, Cristiano Bruletti as well didn't look too bad at all for Say Word FC either. It's a good problem to have when you're producing more guys than you can sign, and that's what this academy is doing. I mean, look, I think at times we want every player who comes to the academy to be an MVP, and that's just not realistic. It doesn't happen for any club. But when you look at the clubs that have come into MLS around the same time as Atlanta United, I don't think there's anybody that's produced the quantity that Atlanta United has. And not all of them have made it with the club, but some of them are going on and playing well in college. Some of them have gone on to other clubs in MLS. Some of them have gone on to other places. Some of them are just making a living playing the game.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's what you want to do. And then the next wave that'll be interesting is some of these guys who, when their careers are done, do they go into coaching and do they come back? And then do they pass that on to the next generation? It's one of my favorite things about the club. It's why I do as much as I can with Atlanta United too. It's why we do as much as we can with the academy games themselves. It's a lifeblood of the club, and I think you've seen that here in this really rough patch for the first team. Some of the shining lights have been those kids coming through the academy who have been fighting, and especially in the Open Cup run, have just been grinding and getting things out of it. And I think you're seeing that heart come out.
No, absolutely. And of course, you have Noah Cobb out there getting significant minutes. Efra Moratis coming in, and spot doing very well. Of course, Caleb going to the Olympics in the summer. So, and Firmino as well. But Caleb going to the Olympics. So you have, like you said, tremendous talent coming through. I think right now, Caleb is kind of like that model of what it's like to come through this Atlanta United ecosystem. Here's a kid that came in to the academy, I think 12, 13, keep me honest. Played for the Twos, made his way up to Atlanta United, and is probably not one of the best left backs in the league, but up there. A very strong mid-tier starting left back in MLS at not even 21, 22 years old. So tremendous testament to what the academy has done with him and the coaching staff. And I think if you want like a poster child of what the Atlanta United path to the professional ranks is, I think you can go at this point no further than Caleb Wiley.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're seeing it with a few guys. Caleb, for sure, he's the homegrown who's got the most games with the first team, and he had about 50 games with the second team before he even got there. So that's amazing to be his age and have over 100 professional games under his belt. Noah Cobb is another one who's on the way.
Yeah.
Definitely. George Bello is a prime example of what you can produce. He was the one before Caleb at left back, and he's playing in Europe, and he's playing well. He's finally found a spot where he can play, and the club's not getting relegated every season like he was in Germany.
Right. Yeah.
And a guy like George Campbell, I think, is another example too. Like, Campbell could be in the Olympic team as well. Another Atlanta United product who wasn't going to play. And he was going to get passed by other center backs and maybe including Noah Cobb, who's a little bit younger. And you move him on for a very large transfer within the league, trade within the league, and you benefit the club that way. And he also then goes on and hopefully will represent the U.S. national team at some point, if not in the Olympics. So it's exciting. I mean, I know there's a lot of things that are frustrating with the first team and results at the moment, of course, but the side of it that I always find joy in is those guys breaking through when they start to figure it out. A guy like Luke Brennan, watching him this season, playing like a man as opposed to an academy player, and you're starting to see everything click for him, and then seeing these guys like go on and do well and get their opportunities. Jay Fortune is another one. I thought Jay was really good on Sunday against Charlotte. Really fought hard for the club in a tough situation. It's good to see that stuff. We want to see more of it. We want to see more of everything right now, but it's good to see those elements, and it's something that you just can't take for granted.
Do you see any changes in I guess the upcoming breaks and Copa America and the Euros and everything else that Atlanta has going on? Do you see any changes in terms of some of the names that maybe people who only follow the first team will see in that time?
Well, it's going to be interesting. We'll see what happens with Cruz Azul and Giorgos. It sounds pretty far along. If it's being reported that we're down to personal terms being agreed to and roughly a transfer fee being agreed to, and you're getting into the finer details of it. So you're going to have to see some changes. You're going to be missing Saba Lobjanidze, which is not going to be an easy one to replace. I want to see how Rob Valentino kind of envisions what he can get out of this group at this point. I think the thing to remember with Rob, he's been with Gonzalo from the beginning. So from, August of 21.
Yeah.
So they obviously have a lot of things in common in the way that they see the game, but everybody has little differences, and good managers welcome those differences of opinion inside your coaching group, because it gives you different perspectives. If you see the game one way and all of your coaches are like, yeah, boss, whatever you say, yeah, boss, then you don't possibly find any other solutions unless they just magically come out of your head. If you've got coaches in your group like Gonzalo had with Diego De La Torre and Eugenio Villazon, who came, who he picked to come with him, and then having Rob kind of fit into that group, you're going to have some differences. So now we'll see where Rob sees it, because the wings have been an issue. The left wing has been the biggest issue. Now you're losing your right winger in Saba for the Euros. How do you deal with that? And you might be losing your striker. So, if you play two up top, you only have two up top. If you don't have Giakoumakis available. And that's a big if. Like, look, I think it's just something that people have to remember right now. There is a lot of unknown when it comes to that deal and when it's going to go down, if it's going to go down, how it's going to go down. So when we're talking, we're trying to cover a lot of ground here in what the possibilities are, because we don't know. We don't know exactly how it's going to look. We don't know if Giakoumakis is available against Houston and then not available after that. We don't know if he's available until the Mexican window opens up and then not after that. He might be available into July. We don't know. Might not happen. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen there. So how you deal with the wings, I think, is the trickle down in terms of, do we see different people? Do we see Luke Brennan? I think that's a possibility, because you might have to. And I would not have thought coming into the season that Brendan was ready for that kind of a moment. I think he is now. I think he's shown that he can handle it. He plays a more mature game now. He's still got to produce more in the final third. I mean, it's what any attacking player is judged by. And he's got to, for his quality, for what he does, for the places he gets into, he's got to score more goals and have more assists. That's just the next step for him. But you might need him at the moment, and you might see him. Maybe you see a little bit more of Firmino. Maybe Almada shifts out to the wing and Firmino plays through the middle. There's a lot of different ways to do it. We just don't know what questions Rob Valentino is going to have to answer just yet for that next game, where we know you're missing Abram, we know you're missing Salish, we know you're missing Saba. That's all we know at this point. You'll have Almada back. You'll have Cobb back from youth national team. You'll have Wiley back. You'll have Fortune back. We don't know about Giakoumakis. We don't know about Gregerson and the hamstring injury. Those are the unknowns at this point.
So if Gigi leaves, of course, you have a managerial search that you're undergoing right now. Mm-hmm. If Gigi leaves, you're going to have a DP slot open, and MLS is such that you 9 teams from each conference make the playoffs. Atlanta United is 3 points out of the playoffs, but as it stands right now, you mentioned all the players that are going to be gone on international duty during the first part of Rob's latest tenure as interim head coach. How do you play that without a manager and a potential DP slot available, or maybe multiple DP slots available if Almada tears up in the Olympics and gets an offer that LA United can't refuse?
Yeah.
Or if Sosa is bought by Racing Club, which rumors have stated that Racing are at least interested. How do you play that without a manager? Do you say, hey...
Or if Caleb Wiley lights it up at the Olympics and gets sold? Because that's another possibility too. I mean, when you're talking about like we just said, a guy with over 100 professional games at his age at the Olympics, if he does well, he's going to turn some heads.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. So
there's a lot of stuff that could happen.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. So
I think the point, like Sid, that I would get into is I know we always have this conversation whenever the managerial seat opens, and it's opened a few times over the years. And Atlanta's not the only club this happens to in this league. It's not the only club in the world it happens to. Follow an Argentine club and see how many managers you go through in 2 years. It's just, same. Good point. It's crazy. But the one global commonality is in all of those cases, the manager's not going out and recruiting players. Like, not very often. In MLS, not very often. Which managers do that right now in MLS? Peter Vermes.
Yeah, let's say Vermes.
Tata Martino obviously has a say. A lot of managers have a say, but
maybe Schmetzer, but that's
and even then, I don't think he really does. Never seemed that way. So, I don't think it directly affects it. I think it changes your conversations with potential managers. It changes that idea of, okay, this is what we have. Are you interested? It's, hey, we've got some open spots, and we're going to listen to how you might like us to fill it. It just changes that conversation. I don't know. I guess my big point there is I don't think they're tied together, and I don't think you need to tie them together. I think that is stretching for a narrative that's probably just not there, because I don't think the manager is going to pick those players. But then the next timeline is, what is the managerial timeline? Because we don't know, and it's kind of open-ended right now. They said they were going to open up the managerial search Tuesday. They have phones, they have emails, they have a Rolodex. Like, Rob Valentino's the interim. There wasn't any kind of conversation about how long that will be. If they find the right guy, that could be a short search. If they don't like their options that they find, then that could be a longer search. If while they're in the process of the search, results turn Rob's way, then that could change the length of the search. So all of that, we don't know how it lines up. If Giakoumakis, we don't know his timeline. If he goes soon, okay. If the Olympics issue comes up, and I would assume that a guy like Almada and potentially Wiley and anybody else, you're talking about August kind of transfers, which would be after our window's closed, by the way. Don't forget how that lines up, and that's a pain. Can you preemptively go get somebody? I don't think you have the room to do it. If you lose Giakoumakis ahead of time, then yes, you have a spot that you could use to potentially think about Almada's possible impending move down the road. But that's not an easy needle to thread, is it? Like, can you get a guy who can play up top, but who could drop in underneath another striker if you want to do that? Do you feel like you've got the strikers to get through something? Can you go get a cheaper striker and go get a 10 with your DP if it opens up, with the expectation that Almada would go in August? Because I don't think he's going to go before the U.S. window closes. I didn't think that was going to happen last year either. I think, the kind of deal you're talking about with Thiago, it's going to go late into the window in Europe, which is after our window's closed. So all of it is just super difficult. And that's why I think you can't tie it all together, because I don't think it lines up that way. And two, you can't hire the manager based on who you might or might not have on the roster or who you might or might not go get. You have to hire the right manager. And then when these other moves happen, because you don't have the room, you don't have the space to be able to go out and get another designated player ahead of time, when those moves happen, then you have to go and make the best moves that you can. You want to have a long-term vision, but I don't think you're going to have the luxury to purely think long-term. I think you're going to have to deal with things as they come and be a little flexible right now in how those things line up and how you get things done.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do a lot of hypotheticals tonight.
No, that's kind of where we're at.
It really is, like,
yeah,
in a lot of ways, immensely. But like, I guess starting from the beginning, which is right now, Lagerwey he started the coaching search yesterday on paper.
I would assume that people have been either talked to or requested to be
it's a short
talked
list.
to.
Yeah, it's a short list.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, there's at
for
least a list of people that you can have conversations with and check temperatures. I mean, you have to.
Yeah.
You have to do that as quickly as you can. So I would assume that is happening.
So some of the questions that you would ask if you're in Lagerwey, I'm going to put you in Lagerwey shoes. I'm going to put you in Rob Valentino's shoes in a minute.
Okay.
But if you were in Lagerwey shoes, let's say you have your short list, right? 4 or 5, whatever, and you're bringing them in for interviews or whatever that process may look like. Knowing the state of the club and the DP situation and the potential Almada DP situation and whatever else may go on, what would be some of the questions that you would be asking a prospective coach in terms of, are you going to be the right fit for all the, craziness that's essentially going to be happening?
I think Garth has talked about being flexible. I'm trying to think of the right way to put it, because I don't want
pragmatic in
the proper sense. Yes. And I think that's how he meant it, and not in the 1995 soccer sense where it's a synonym for defensive, because it's not. It's literally taking what you have and solving the issues that you need to solve. So yeah. And I think, honestly, Gonzalo fit that. I think he had a way that he wanted to play, and he was brought in to be an attacking team, right? That was what everybody wanted in 2021. That was what Darren Eales definitely wanted when he hired him. Since the beginning of 2023, Atlanta and Columbus have scored the most goals in MLS. Period. Right now, from the beginning of the 2023 season. So, we know the various things that go alongside that. The defense wasn't good enough last year. Now the offense has slowed down in the last month and a half to where it's a huge issue. But you got to be flexible in this league to be successful. No doubt about it. You've got to, in my opinion, be someone who is a players manager, relates to players well. I think the old school Bud Kilmer style of it's my way or the highway, that stuff doesn't fly anymore. Not with the kids who come up through the academy, and not with the young, talented players you're going to go get. And I think you're going to need to get somebody who I think trusts you, is the best way to put it, because you're going to be able to give them more resources than probably any club in the country, than a lot of clubs in the world. You're going to be able to give them the quality of players. You're going to be able to give them the reporting. You're going to be able to give them everything that they probably haven't gotten in many jobs where they've been. And you're going to have to ask them to trust you, because you need them to coach the team, not be scouting for the next striker, not be scouting for another left winger, or like whatever you're looking for. That's the front office's job. You need to make the best of the ingredients I give you. And that person needs to trust you. And if that relationship is strong, then I think you're in the best position that you can possibly be. If you don't feel that, then you probably need to keep looking.
So let me ask you this, considering the number of players that will be missing, for the first few weeks after the break. What would be the measure of success Rob would need to be named the permanent head coach of Atlanta United, in your opinion?
I don't know if there's an exact amount or number, honestly. I don't think you can fairly make it because of those absences. I don't think you should, if you feel like you found the right person, wait either. And look, that's the nature of the gig, and everybody knows that. Managers know that, assistant managers, interim managers, when they get that opportunity. He hasn't been named the manager. So until he is, they're going to be looking.
Yeah.
And they're going to be looking at people with more experience. And if you find the right person who fits every criteria that you have and you feel like is the right person to go win trophies for this club, you have to hire them. I mean, that's the job. And Rob knows that. And that's the part that's hard in this spot. And I've seen it with managers and coaches over the years in various sports and at various levels. You get to a point where you've got to, if Rob wants to be a head coach, a manager in the game, this is an opportunity for him, but it's a little bit out of his hands as to if he gets the job. But he built his resume here and he takes that opportunity. And if this is where he wants to be, I think you have to go look to be a head coach somewhere. Maybe not in MLS, maybe in USL Championship, maybe in USL League One. I don't know what other places would be possible, maybe somewhere else. But when you get out of that, I'm an assistant and now I'm getting an interim spot, to I want to be a head coach and I'm going to go be a head coach, then that's kind of the step you have to take. And I think Rob will have an opportunity to win the job, but it's going to have to fall all his way for that to happen. Results are going to have to be good. And those other people that are going to be talked to that have more experience are going to have to not work out.
Yeah.
That's just what it's going to come down to, because I don't think you're going to be able to beat the resume of some of the people that would be, I would assume, interviewed.
Yeah. And I guess on the other side of the coin, if he were to prove everybody wrong and come out the gate, right, with all of essentially the cards stacked against him, because they are, right?
They 100% are.
100% are. And he were to pull out, a handful of wins, good results and things like that, then, I mean, you've got a little bit of a leg to stand on. But I agree. Like, there's so much coaching talent right now at this moment in time that's out there that Atlanta could go after, and it would be hard to say no to that.
Right.
You have to kick the tires on all possibilities. You have to. It would be malpractice if you don't. You have to, and you're going to be looking at guys who have won trophies. You're going to be looking at guys who have won, all kinds of games. You have to go talk to those people. But while you're talking to those people, Rob's got time to make his case. And he has to take, if that's the ultimate goal for him, is I want this job and I want it right now, you've got to make every second count. And you got 3 games in your first week.
Yeah.
And that's not easy, 2 of them on the road. But results change everything. And I don't think you're going to hire somebody before this team finishes the game in St. Louis. And if the results are good, then maybe the process slows down.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be a scale. It's just going to be an ongoing scale of, do I have to speed up because we're not getting the results we need? Or do I have to slow down because we are getting the results we need? And maybe we should see where this goes.
So one thing that stood out to me in the press conference was, I think it was Doug that asked this a number of times, and then I think Mike asked it too. Would Carlos be involved in the search? And I felt that Garth kind of sidestepped that question. What does that kind of mean for Carlos Bookin? Am I reading too much into it, first of all? And then second of all, what does that mean for Carlos Bookin-Negris' position?
I don't know, and nobody does. And I think anybody who says that they do is speculating. It was odd. It was a little strange, and maybe there was a misunderstanding, but it seemed like it was pretty clear to the question. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with the first part of, Garth's going to make the decision that will be recommended to Arthur Blank.
Yeah.
That's how these things go.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing abnormal with that. I would assume that was the process when Gonzalo was hired. Was that Darren Eales made that decision with input, and that input came from Carlos and others. I don't know why that wasn't necessarily laid out, again, unless there's a misunderstanding in the way the question was framed. Garth's going to make the ultimate recommendation, and I would assume that other soccer people in the building are going to be involved in coming to that conclusion. But like we just talked about too, and this I think does need to be understood and maybe is part of the complication here. While you're doing that, you've got the Cruz Azul thing going on. You've got to be looking at strikers. You've got the Thiago Almada conversations potentially bubbling up. You might have Caleb Wiley conversations. You might have other conversations we don't even know about right now. You got to deal with that too. And it might be the decision that right now the best thing for this group to do is for Carlos and the scouting staff to focus on the roster and what could come and being prepared. And Garth and whoever is making those decisions around focusing on the coaching search. You might have to split up a little bit in that way. Again, I think you're looking, because it wasn't directly answered, I think perfectly clearly, narratives are going to fly. Yeah. But I also don't think anything was said that would make you question his future or any of that, because we don't know. That wasn't answered either. So you can't jump to either side of it. My guess is they're going to have to focus on the roster more right now, but I would assume that they would be asked about their opinions on potential coaching ideas that could come up, but I don't know.
Yeah. So within that same line of thought, and going back to the hypotheticals.
Okay.
I can have the conversation. What's that?
Who am I now? Who do I get to be now?
You're still Lagerway.
Okay, I'm still Garth Lagerway.
Yeah, you're still Lagerway.
Garth is not going to like me playing the Garth Lagerway role at all, but okay.
I could ask you this question because you know plenty about, I think, the ins and outs of this question, because this question has been floated around to every single person that's an Atlanta United fan for the past 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever.
Okay.
But knowing all the coaching talent out there, is there anybody that with this roster right now that you would say, I would realistically like to go after that person? I know you can kick tires on Jurgen Klopp and people like that. And I'm not saying don't, but if there was somebody realistic that you would say right now, as it stands, that probably would be a good fit, are there any names that stick out to you?
That you could realistically get as well?
Yes.
Like that you're looking at as like, yeah, if I have this conversation and we're all on the same page, I could hire this person if that's who I think is the right person.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to go, shoot for the stars a little bit, but
no, I think you have to have conversations shooting for the stars, but when you're thinking about what's realistic, you're not thinking about, Mauricio Pochettino being realistic, but I want to know. I think he is out of the others, like out there in the world, he's the one that's really intriguing and might also really be up for something completely different than what he's been doing. I think Klopp's going to take time off, and then ultimately he'll manage Germany. But he needs time off. He was at Liverpool for how long? 10 years?
Almost 10 years.
I mean, that's a grind. That takes a lot out of you. Yeah. He needs time off. Out of the worldwide stuff, Pochettino is the one I'd want to have the conversation with, but I can't say anything about it being realistic. Almada at Pachuca is an interesting one that I would definitely want to talk to. I don't know if he's interested in leaving. Larcamon, who was, I believe, at Puebla before, was up for the Mexico job. He's a very interesting one that I'd want to talk to. I've always been partial to Sebastian Becasese, who was at Defensa y Justicia, was involved in winning Copa Sudamericana, and he didn't win Copa Sudamericana. He won the Supercopa the following year. It was Hernan Crespo who won the Sudamericana, who would be another one that I think would be interesting. He went to the Middle East. I don't know if he's interested in coming back. Marcelo Gallardo, obviously, you have to have that conversation. Out of the ones who are the most realistic because they've worked in MLS, there's two that I keep coming back to. I do think you have to talk to Bruce Arena. I would. At a minimum, it might be like Bill Belichick with the Falcons. You're going to have the conversation. You might learn why you don't want to go that direction. But he is the best manager from the United States in terms of resume, period.
Yeah.
And you can feel how you feel about 2018. And yeah, he made mistakes in Trinidad. He's also dug a hole by Jurgen Klinsmann. And don't go talk to Jurgen Klinsmann, please.
Please don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, please don't do that one.
Exactly.
I think you talk to Bruce. I have no idea if he's the right person. He would be short term, he wouldn't be here for a long period of time. But is that something you want to do? I'd talk to him. The two that I keep coming back to are one who was just hired into a different role with Connecticut United, Robin Fraser. Very well respected. I don't think he's ever been in a position like he would be in here where he'd actually have resources to work with. Chivas USA and Colorado are a little bit different.
Just a little.
But he fits the bill in terms of being flexible, like I talked about, and being able to make a lot out of what he's got to work with. He would be somebody that I think you need to talk to for sure. And the other one is Giovanni Savarese. I've been a big fan of Gio since his time with the Cosmos. I've heard so many good things. I talked about it on our Atlanta Soccer Tonight special on 92.9. He literally put himself into the emergency room with exhaustion trying to find gigs for his players with the Cosmos when they folded the first time after 2016, and then reconstituted the team when they got new ownership. He's just an amazing person by all accounts, and culture is a big thing with this club. You know that. It's a big thing with any of Arthur Blank's businesses, and he would fit that culture. He's also, you talk about pragmatic, he would fit that. He's not a defensive manager. Diego Valeri did really, really well for him. Portland scored goals, but he also would be, in the true sense of pragmatism, he would be that guy who would be willing to say, you know what, look, we're going to have to be a little bit off the ball in this game because we're missing guys or the legs are heavy. I think he would be a person that I would really want to talk to. And if I had any job open in terms of coaching in this hemisphere, he's somebody that I would want to talk to.
What about sorry, Tyler, let's hit this real quick. What about a Ronnie Dyla type who has experience in MLS?
Yeah, no, good shout. Good shout. Absolutely talk to him. Absolutely. He's a little more idiosyncratic in terms of like, does he fit the culture side of it? Does he fit everything? He had some issues with dealing with City Football Group and that side of it, but look, he's got trophies. So I like what he can do style of play wise. I like his game model. So for sure. I would have been interested in talking to Dome Tarrant as well, because he's another one who I think is just a brilliant manager. But I think he is in a gig as of a few months ago.
Right.
And he's a little more difficult personality too. And like I said, like culture is a big part of it. You have to have somebody who can adapt to being at a big club. And that was what Gabriel Heinze could not do. Go back to 2021. I'm pretty sure you guys said it. I said it. Everybody said it. When you looked at who was available and you looked at who, would be a good fit, everybody in the country and the hemisphere said Gabriel Heinze was a perfect fit for Atlanta United. I do not remember any naysayers at the time. He didn't. It's easy to rewrite history, but if I'm wrong, please tell me, because I think everybody was pretty much on board with that.
Yeah, I agree.
Nationally and in Argentina, everywhere. But the biggest thing he struggled with, it's not the on the field. It was the culture. And it was being at a club where you can't just, take your lunch pail to work and do what you want to do. You've got to talk to the media. You've got to talk to sponsors. You've got to talk to those kids coming through the academy. So that is still going to be fresh, not in Garth's mind, but in the club overall's mind. And you got to hire somebody who fits that. Dome Tarrant might not have fit that.
And I think that's such like an ingrained thing at this point in the club itself, right? Like even though Garth wasn't here, I don't think it was lost on anybody. There was a giant head of Gabriel Heinze in the supporter section the other day with the whole water main break.
Oh,
You know, like
yeah.
I think
people still twisting that into the wrong direction, but you know.
But it is one of those things where at the base of that entire conversation, like you said, is the fact that he wasn't ready, I think, for the fundamental aspect of running this kind of club. It's different.
I don't think he ever will be. And there are managers who are like that. I look at some of the guys who've been around Pep Guardiola, and Pep has tried to have guys go on and be successful. I mean, Mikel Arteta, obviously, he can do it. Yeah. He can manage being at a big club. You saw it in the Amazon series. He could handle those moments and do it really well. Juan Leo, who is a brilliant soccer mind, maybe one of the smartest soccer minds. The clubs he's managed have been tiny clubs, and it doesn't really suit him because he's so almost so brilliant that it's hard for him to relate to normal people and to do normal things in terms of being at a big club. He's a great assistant for somebody like Pep, but some guys, they're better off being the big fish in the small pond, or they're just better off being in a smaller spot where they can kind of do things their way. You can't do that in Atlanta. You're going to have a lot of different hats you have to wear when you're the manager of this club, and you've got to hire somebody who can handle that.
Yeah. I'm seeing some names too. Some people throwing out. You got Hugo Perez. You got.
I would 100%. I would talk to Hugo Perez. I think he is one of the smartest soccer minds in the country. I think 100%. He did a lot with a little bit with El Salvador. Again, talk about resources and giving him more to work with. 100%. I would absolutely talk to him.
Yeah. I see Dan saying Rod Underwood. I love Rod to death. I do.
Yeah, I don't know.
Rod's been around the block, really.
Yeah, he has. He's a Atlanta guy.
I love Rod. Rod's good people. He has a great, I think, vision for the way he wants his teams to play. It's a big jump, and it's probably too big of a jump right now. Now, again, like I said with Rob Valentino, when you're looking at if that's the goal, if you create your ideal job in 5 years or 10 years, and that's where I want to be, I think Rod's got to move up at least a level, and go and have success there. And see, Rob, because of where he is, the door opened. You got to take the opportunity. The door's open. He's going to get to jump the line. Okay. Does everything fall for him to actually do that? Rod Underwood, I think, has to make a move to a bigger spot to then show that he could take this kind of a job on.
Yeah.
Right. Looking, so let's kind of looking around the league. Who else maybe is on the hot seat? I mean, for me, it's of course, Kansas City have been struggling all year.
For me, and he probably needs a break when his time in Kansas City's up. I don't know what he does next. A lot of people would have said Jesse Marsh, but he's busy now with Canada, so you can rule that one out. I don't think there's anybody else in the league that's currently in the league that is the right fit. The two names that did cross my mind that I would not be surprised if conversations are had with them because of the connections are Ante Razov and Preki. Two guys who have been in the Seattle organization, two guys who have had amazing success as players in this league, and two guys who have not had that head job yet. I don't know if that's what they aspire to. I'm honestly not sure. I would assume from the way those two were as players, as uber competitive as both of them were, they'd like to be the man. Those are conversations that probably should be had as well.
What about just one more quick name? Fabio Padu, the assistant at Columbus. It's that situation where Columbus may want to lock him down, or he may want to go with Nancy, whatever Nancy's next step is, or is that a guy who is just waiting for his next shot as a manager, I should say.
If I'm Columbus, I'm locking him down. I'd be surprised if they don't. I think Wilfred Nancy is going to be there for a minute. I don't think he's antsy on going anywhere immediately. If the right job opened up in France, maybe. I don't know what that job would be because you're in that kind of in between spot, like we've talked about with Underwood, with Valentino, and PSG is not going to come calling because of the perception about MLS. But would a club underneath that come calling? Yeah, potentially. And that might be hard to say no to. And then you like to take guys with you. Would he want to stay in that group before going out to be the manager? Or can you put the offer in front of him and he would want to make that jump? Laurent Courtois did. Now, he was in a different spot with Columbus, but he made that jump. And he's an interesting young manager on the rise. So I would try to kick the tires on that, but my guess would be that Columbus would say no and do what they have to do, so that wouldn't happen.
And I think I would.
Well, I'll give you another one along those lines. Javier Morales with Inter Miami. He'd be another one that has a connection with Garth from their time at RSL, who is a very well-respected, up-and-coming coach / potential manager. And he's in a different spot in Miami because he's not one of Tata's guys. So is he ready? I have no idea. I would tend to think not quite, but that's another one you might talk to. I think you've got like probably a scale of how you're going to do this. You've got the pie in the sky, big picture ones that you got to try. You got to see what's up. You've got to also be concurrently moving on the guys who are available right now or could be available if they're interested, like a Robin Fraser, like a Giovanni Savarese. And then you probably also do need to have that, all right, if we don't get these other ones that we want and we decide that we need to go get somebody outside the organization, who would be an up-and-coming person? Would that be an Ante Razov, a Preki, a Javier Morales? Could it be a Danny Cruz from Louisville? I think Danny Cruz is one of the better up-and-coming managers in the United States right now. I really like what he's done with Lou City.
He's killing it.
Yeah, and a big personality too, but I think culturally he would fit. He would be a really interesting conversation. I'd like to have it if I'm still playing the role of Garth Lagerwey right now.
You are.
That would be a call. I'm making that call. I want to talk to him. I think you have to look at it on those like different scales of if Mauricio Pochettino says, yeah, I'm interested. Yeah, the money's good. Yeah, I want to do it. Then you're going to go far down that road. You're going to push the other scales off to the side.
Yeah.
If Giovanni Savarese is interested and you think it's the right fit, you're going to put that first and you're going to push the others to the side. But that third bucket of the less proven guys, I think you need to kick the tires on it. And it might not come true this time around, but it might be in a way like a Raheem Morris situation where the time wasn't right when he was the interim before, didn't get hired, went and improved his resume. But he probably helped him out a lot in the interview process that he was already a known quantity. And they had went through that with him before. So Danny Cruz might not be ready now, but have the conversation to where if that job opens up again in 4 or 5 years and he's available, maybe he's ready then.
And then Ben Pierman, as Dan said in the chat, down Charlotte has success wherever he's gone.
Had success. Culturally, he's going to be a little more of a challenge. I think stylistically on the field, he's going to be a little more of a challenge, but I think also like personality wise, it's going to be more of a challenge. Doesn't mean you don't, check out everything on it, but I think Danny Cruz fits the way that Atlanta would want to be more. And I would go there first.
I think I would caution fans too, because I have to do this myself, but Lagerwey said in the press conference, his words were, he expects, I think, an avalanche of people putting in for this job, which is obvious and fair.
Yep.
We've named, I think, like 15 or 20 names.
I didn't have a list in front of me to start this. This is just from us talking. That
I knew this was going to be good because there are so many that like I've thought of that Sydney hasn't thought of, vice versa, Tommy, and then you've thought of and everything else. But there is a very possible chance that, I mean, as broad as Atlanta is going to throw this net because they have AMBSE and all the resources and everything else, it might be somebody that we have, not that we've never heard of, but that we're not even thinking of right now.
Right.
And that might be the best option.
Exactly.
Like that's the reality of it. You never know how these things fall. When Wilfred Nancy got the job in Montreal, it was because Thierry Henry wanted to go back to France.
Yeah.
It was coming off of COVID. He didn't want his family to not be with him. He left kind of last minute. And it's, well, okay, Wilfred, here you go. Have at it. And he's been the best coach in MLS since he got that opportunity. Yeah. And then Columbus went out and did whatever they had to do to get him. Like, sometimes that happens. You never 100% know. Sometimes it's the one that's on the way up that the first gig, Xabi Alonso, it fits. You know, he had done the second team thing before. He had done the youth side before, and it fit and it worked. And he's been incredibly successful. You just don't know. And sometimes it's the proven guy that everybody would think of and everybody would talk to, and they are the right guy. So I think you have to work on all of those lists and have all of those conversations to come to the right conclusion for who that right person is right now.
So now to then take your shoes away from Garth and put on, we're going to put on Rob's shoes.
All right. Okay.
Giving you a second to hop in the dressing room.
Yeah. Let me do this.
So again, right now, as it stands, this is obviously a tumultuous week for the entire club. Mm-hmm. You've had all the changes. You got a lot of players that are gone, whatever. When it comes back to the moment that you get back to training and you take the field for that first game, if you're Rob, what is the message that you're trying to send to the players? What are you trying to do in terms of kind of the guidelines that you tell them to go play under? Or what does that message look like?
You're not going to be able to change a lot tactically, and you don't really want to, again, because this team, tactics haven't been the issue. You can say what you want. You can try to flex your Twitter muscles all you want. That's fine. Tactics aren't the issue. If you're the tied for the leading goal scoring team in the league in the last year and a half, you're doing something right. If all the underlying metrics point one way, that you're one of the top 10 teams in what should be this year, you're doing some things right. And then, oh yeah, by the way, tactics don't happen overnight in one training session. There's no switch to be flipped like on a video game. It's stuff you build. It's stuff that Rob has been involved in building.
Yep.
You're not going to change your identity. Are you potentially going to change personnel? Yeah, you're going to have to. Are you potentially going to change like in-game tactics and instruction? Yeah, you can do that. That's not the same thing. That's not what I'm saying. So the way you're going to play is going to be the same. I think the message, and look, these are adults. Even if some of them are teenagers, they're getting paid to do this, so they're adults. They got to be adults right now.
Yep.
There's a couple messages that I would want to make sure that they understand. The performances on the field ended up costing 3 people their jobs, period. Yeah. And 3 people that I'm sure Rob's very close to.
Yep.
And those people have to figure out what they do next in their life right now, because the performances on the field haven't been good enough. And I don't think I'm stretching anything to tell you that. That's facts, because the ball hasn't been put in back of the net enough. Mistakes have been made, and the players are accountable for that. Yeah. It ultimately cost Gonzalo and Diego and Eugenio their jobs, because
and their families.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's the job, that they know that you get hired to eventually get fired. It's very rare you get to walk away under your own terms. So they know it, but the players need to be reminded of that, because they have to feel that urgency, because you can only move so many coaches on before you start moving players on. And I think Garth kind of alluded to that. So Rob has to drive that message home and use that as a motivating factor for this group. And it kind of goes back to the bigger picture, and something that I was talking about on the full-time report after the Charlotte game. This is a team that has to show that they can win ugly, win when things aren't going their way, whether it's personnel, whether it's calls, whether it's situations, whether it's fatigue, whatever. It's what's the best way to put this? They need to show their testicular fortitude. Share a line from Mick Foley.
There was a connection there. I was going to say it, but I wasn't going to say it out loud. I'm so glad you said
it. They have to. I mean, flat out. And it's something that I think is fair to be questioned at times. And it came up after the Cincinnati game, where Luciano Acosta's winning headers. Like, it can't happen. When teams in the situation they were in, that can't happen. Like, it literally cannot happen. If it does, he's got to get decked. He's got to end up on the ground. Like, people have to do that. They have to commit that hard foul. They have to do those things.
Get stuck in, yeah.
It has to happen. And when now you're in the situation that you're in where performances haven't been good enough, people have been fired, and there's a lot of uncertainty about what happens. These players have to feel that, and they have to be reminded of that. And it's not because they're bad people. It's not because anybody did it intentionally. Anybody who tries to create a dream team episode out of this is wasting their time. It's not that. It's ultimately good professionals didn't get the job done, and other professionals in different roles got fired for it. That's sports. It sucks, but that's sports.
Yeah.
So the players have to know that, because the next people who get moved on are the players who aren't performing. And the thing about this game that I think is maybe a little more unique to it is that these are good players. You can use whatever metrics you want to show this is a good roster. This is a roster that is seen as a very valuable roster. People are coming in and offering 8 figures for your players. Like, this is a good group of players. It's a good group of people. But are they the right group together with the right personality to get through this tough time? We're going to find out. And Rob's got to find that out as quickly as he can. And if some of the players who are the ones who you would expect to start are not showing that they can handle the tough times, then somebody else has got to start. And you've got to get the guys out there who can fight. And that's what it's going to come down to right now, because you're not going to have a lot of time to train. You're not going to have a lot of time with a consistent 11. You're not going to be able to change a whole bunch of tactics. The thing you can change is the mentality, the fight. It's not effort. Don't simplify it that way. It's such a lazy cop out to say they're not trying, or they're not trying because they don't like the manager, or that kind of stuff. No. None of that is true, accurate, any of it. But you have to, in these moments, go past the I'm giving 100%. And the part where you can't quantify, you're giving extra. You have to. You have to. It's got to be that extra sprint. It's got to be blocking that shot. It's got to be diving in for that tackle. It's got to be that stuff right now. Because when you start to get some results by doing that, then you can play in a more free and more comfortable way.
Sure.
Let me ask you this. Do you feel that it is a fair statement to look at Gonzalo Pineda and Eugenio and Diego, them being fired, and everything going on with the club right now, and say maybe where it went wrong was simply the fact that there was complacency that got set in, not laziness, not trying, like you said,
but
maybe just a sense of complacency where there was nobody could come to that, I guess, that light bulb moment to say, you have to do this differently on the pitch because you're so used to doing it one way, and nobody was able to flip that switch.
I don't think so. I've never gotten that sense. I don't think that was the case. I don't think that was the case from the coaching staff, because I think they tried a lot of different things in different ways. So I don't think they kind of just said, you know what, we've got a good team, let's just roll it out. I think, and I don't think the players have shown me that. I think it's harder to quantify, because I think you have some players who are very, very good. And I was actually reading a conversation about this in one of the Pep Guardiola books about his time at Bayern Munich. And this was the one as he was going to City. So it was kind of recapping the last 2 years at Bayern. And one of Pep's confidants is Manuel Estiarte. He is a water polo legend for Spain. And he was having a conversation with the author about how elite athletes today you're getting to a point where they are so good and so well trained and so well prepared that it's not that they're complacent, it's that they can't fathom failure because they haven't. And the best of the best don't. And when they do, it doesn't, like, they don't look right. Think Brazil in the semifinal in 2014. Like, that was one of the most insane things I've ever seen. They got punched in the mouth and they didn't know how to hold on. And the The analogy that Monel used is one that I use a lot in situations, and I think this team's got to find this. Think of a boxer or UFC, it works the same way. If you get rocked, so you concede a goal, you have a bad call go against you, whatever. You get rocked. What do the best fighters do in those moments? They hold on for dear life. They get their wits about them. And then, no, not just get up. That's not that. It's like, they do it different ways. So some guys would literally like grab the guy and just hold on, literally hold on until, all right, I can breathe again. All right, everything's good. Okay, now I can get back to my game plan. Or you hold on to the ropes, whatever it is, whatever you do in those moments, you've got to have that. And the elite of the elite, they don't have to do that. Like scrappy teams have to do that. They understand how to do that. That's their mentality. That's not Atlanta United's mentality. Like the conversation about the Miami win, the greatest upset win in Atlanta United history. How many times have they won a game that's an upset? Like not often. Like there's not a list there. There's not much of a list. So you've got to find some of that mentality. And it's not complacency. It's not the word I would use, but it is it is a different kind of internal fight that you have to get to in these moments. And right now, maybe not inside each game every moment you're like this, but as a club, you're kind of like this. You need to, like, the win in Miami was great, but you've got to get 2 1-0 wins back to back. You've got to get a gritty comeback draw on the road, followed up with a win, like that kind of stuff. You've got to get some of those moments under your belt for you to get back to where you want to be. I hate the cliche about, you have to earn the right to play. I think it gets used so improperly by so many commentators. I hate it. I won't use it. But the way it fits this situation is you've got to earn the right to be a top team. And right now, this team's not that. Even though you have a top team of players, you have a top roster, you have some top metrics, you don't have top results. So you've got to show that in the Charlotte game, for example, where VAR decides to get up off their couch and get involved, and the goal goes against you, even though we didn't get to see any angles that showed that. There's mystery angles
coming down the pipe.
Yeah,
that's fine. That's fine.
Be careful.
I'll start collecting, but it happens, right? They didn't handle it well, and I get why they didn't handle it well, because all of them know what the situation was. All of them knew that they didn't get a win. Some people that they care about were going to lose their jobs. Like, they knew. And it's hard in that moment where if you feel like, man, everything is going against us, and that's a call that I thoroughly disagree with, and it's gone against us, and now what are we going to do? Like, that's a human reaction. It's normal. You have to snap out of it quicker than they did.
Yeah.
And they did.
Exactly.
They did. The last 30 minutes, they ran, they fought, they threw everything at the game. That's great. And they have that in them. But they can't do that part of the fight where they get rocked and they hold on to not get rocked again.
Yeah.
Like the Brazil game. Brazil gives up a goal. It's an early goal. It happens. It's weird. It's crazy. All right. It's a semifinal. Let's not give up another goal quickly. Let's be simple here. Let's be smart. Let's get numbers behind the ball. Let's be easy. No, it's Brazil. Like, we're going to go score 5. No worries. So they just do their same thing, and they give up a second goal. Still no reaction. Third goal, still no reaction. Like, and then it was like a massive freak out because they couldn't handle the moment. You're seeing this team not have the reaction for too long, and that's why they're losing games. But then you are finally seeing it. They've just got to get back to that sooner. And I always cite that NYC game on the road where they give up a penalty, and it's a meh penalty. I mean, you can justify it. I didn't love it, but you can justify the call. And they came together on the field and they said, look, let's get to halftime. We're okay here. We're fine. Let's not do anything crazy. We don't have to go try to win the game back in 5 minutes. Let's get to halftime. Let's build. We got this. We can go get a result. And they did. You haven't seen enough of that in this run. And it's what has ultimately put them in the position they're in.
Do you think that's the new voice, essentially, that kind of mindset? That
it can. Yeah, it can. It's a different approach. I mean, Gonzalo was a very thoughtful manager.
Yeah.
There was never a just YOLO vibe to Gonzalo and what he would do. It was very thoughtful. He took a lot of counsel. He took a lot of advice. He thought out everything he did. He thought out every way he talked to his team. He was very thorough. So I'm sure that he tried to push those buttons. Sometimes it doesn't get understood by a group of players until you're here. And the new coach bounce is a thing. And the reason why it's a thing is not the dream team side of it, not the soap opera side of it, where they didn't like the guy. It's we really screwed up. And now we got to fix it to save ourselves. That mentality kicks in. And you've got to feed into it. If you're Rob, I think you absolutely have to feed into it.
Yeah.
But it's a real emotional reaction. And I think you're going to see some of that. But when that moment of adversity comes in a game, because no team's going to dominate 90 minutes and never be tested, never be rocked. It's not going to happen. Not in this league for sure. You got to handle it. And they got to show that they can. And I haven't seen enough of it in this team this season. It's not that they're not good. I think this is a really good roster. And I think when they're in control of games and they're flowing, they're as good as anybody in the league. But it's those moments where you're not. Can you still get something out of it? And they haven't shown that, and they have to.
Yeah, 100%. So, Jason, obviously, always appreciate you coming on. Always love the discussion that you bring, the insight that you bring each and every time. Gotta have you, before we let you go, put your analyst hat back on, because
man, I've been wearing a lot of hats today.
You can go back to being yourself.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, but
I can do that part.
No, but a couple of Americas coming up in a few weeks. Of course, the U.S. are part of it in the group with Uruguay, Panama, Bolivia. So, answer is kind of twofold. How far do you see the U.S. legitimately going in the competition? And then, second part of that question, when it comes to the competition as a whole, is it Argentina versus the field, or do you see maybe a dark horse coming up and winning the competition? What do you think?
Copa America is always crazy. I mean, not that long ago, in this decade, Chile's won 2 of them, back to back. That's insane.
Don't forget that.
Yeah.
Back to back on penalties over Argentina. Just craziness.
Yeah.
Argentina's the favorite because of the run that they're on. There's just no way around that right now. They are that team until somebody beats them.
Yep.
So I would say they're the favorite. For the U.S., you got to get out of the group. No question about that. You have to get out of the group. If you don't, that's a failure. And if you don't, I'm going to need to know why. And I'm going to need to look at it again, because these things are multifaceted and not hot takes on the Bird app. You need to see why that happened. And if you don't like the answers there, then you're going to have some hard conversations as you get ready for 26. But this team should get out of the group. And that's not I don't think it's an unfair expectation. I don't think it's anything that, people shouldn't be looking for. They should get out of the group. If they don't, then they didn't do their jobs. How far they go after that, that's the part that's kind of unknown, because I can't sit here and tell you that they should win a quarterfinal without knowing who they play in the quarterfinal.
Right.
You never know how that goes. You get out of the group and you see where the chips fall. I would like to see this team get to a semifinal. I think if you do that, no matter how you do, and just like we went through with Atlanta United, I don't want to hear people, if say they win 2 games and draw 1 in the group and they get through the quarterfinal on penalties, I don't want to hear anybody say, well, they didn't really play that well to get to the semifinal. Shut up, go sit in the corner and don't talk anymore. because it's about results, right?
Right.
Like,
No one's gonna care looking back.
I don't want the 2019 Atlanta United conversation to pop back up from the first half of the season. Well, they're winning games, but they're winning 1-0. They're not really playing that great. Shut up. They need to win games. Like, win games. However you win games.
How many would go back to that right now?
Yeah,
everybody would. People probably canceled all their tweets and deleted them all at this point. Like, it's crazy that happened. Now, like, for the U.S. in this tournament, you just get through and you just keep going as far as you can. Like, are they a favorite to win? No. Would I love to see them get to a final? Yeah, because they haven't been to a final outside of CONCACAF since the Confederations Cup final in 2009, which was amazing. This would be massive if you could pull that off. Can they? Yeah. Because it's a tournament. Anything can happen, but you got to get out of the group. You need to perform to a decent degree. You don't have a right back, and that's the thing I keep coming back to with this group.
Yep.
Who is that going to be? Is it going to be Weston McKennie? Is it going to be Yunus Musa? Joe Scally did not look comfortable against Jamaica last time out. I worry about that if that's the choice. And in the group stage, you might see it. You might see some differences, but when the games really matter, who's at center back? Who's at right back?
Yeah.
Because I don't 100% know. I want McKennie in midfield. I would be really tempted to see what Yunus Musa looks like at right back because I want him on the field, but the midfield's too crowded, and I need McKennie there. I don't want to sacrifice him at right back. I would go Musa at right back, and center back, it's probably either Miles or Cameron Carter-Vickers. If neither one completely looks the part in these two friendlies, you know you have Tim Ream. And yes, he is at the age that he is at, but
I don't care.
You know what to expect. You know what you're going to get. You're going to get a solid 6 out of him. No question. You might get more, but you know you're not going to have an awful performance out of him. And you need that in a tournament. So get out of the group, see where the chips fall. I think if you get out of the group, there shouldn't be complaints, but yeah, it's hashtag USMNT, so yeah, there will be.
Real quick, if it's not Argentina, who wins?
That's hard because Brazil's not typically Brazil right now. I'll give you a wild card, and it's maybe because he is El Loco.
Does it start with you?
Don't discount Uruguay.
Uruguay is my full-on like sicko. Fire Cup America.
Yeah, don't discount El Loco and what he can do with that group. And you take a crazy man and you put him in charge of one of the hardest fighting teams in the history of soccer around the world. That's a really potent combination if it comes together right.
When we did our show the other day at the Signia at the hotel, we kind of had this conversation, and Uruguay was 100% like nailed down for me. Not even including the players, but you take him, you take El Loco, you take Bielsa. Like he's gonna take his players, whoever they are, and he's gonna elevate them.
Yeah,
because there hasn't been a time in his career that he hasn't. So I'm curious to see how they play in such a tournament.
Yeah, this is a good opportunity for him to get the mentality he wants out of the group. It might not fully come together yet with this group. I think they'll be a dangerous team in the tournament. They'll be one I'm definitely be paying attention to. Always the soap opera with Mexico and what they look like and how they play in this thing, because there will be stories. There will be stuff. Does somebody else out of South America step up and do something? I think there's some pressure on Colombia. I think there is an expectation there that we should be seeing more from them than we have in the last couple of cycles. So does that come together here? I don't know until I see it. I don't believe it until I see it with them, because they've been pretty disappointing over the last few years. So I think it's Argentina for sure is the favorite. I think you can't discount the U.S. making a deep run. And Uruguay is the one that I would not want to see at any point.
Yeah. And then real quick, the women, of course, Emma Hayes coming in. Thoughts on how they're doing thus far in. Thoughts on the Olympics. What's that look like for them?
And the introduction of Emma.
Man, you got some tough decisions because you only get to take 18 to the Olympics, which is thoroughly stupid on the IOC and FIFA's part. So you got to cut people, and you got to get some players who can play a few different positions for you in that group, because you're taking 2 goalkeepers and you're taking 16 on the field. I like where they are. I think you're not going to see any bold, dramatic things from Emma Hayes yet, because you just don't have the time. And then honestly, like, when you go back through her time with Chelsea, she's somewhat in the Carlo Ancelotti mold of talk about being pragmatic. Like, she's kind of in that. There's certain things that I think were consistent. She wants to create chances from wide spaces, but she wasn't married to playing 4 in the back or playing 3 center backs, or, you know, how everything would shape up. It really depended on the players that she had at her disposal. So I think she's a perfect national team manager because of that. I think the one element that we've seen develop in this group, and it started with Twyla Kilgore's group, it started at the W Gold Cup early in the year, is this is a team that's leaning into its athleticism a little bit more in a focused way. It's not the old school, okay, we're going to play direct and go chase because we're fast and we're strong. It's, we're going to press. We're going to step up high and defend you high up the field and turn you over in dangerous spots, and then let these talented attackers cook. Trinity Rodman is as good as you will find in some of those moments. And Sophia Smith and Trinity Rodman just fit together perfectly. It's, I think the biggest thing for Emma Hayes in this Olympic cycle that now she is thoroughly in is managing the disappointment of the players who don't go, because you're going to have players who you will need for the next World Cup cycle that you won't have a roster spot for them. You won't be able to take them. So you've got to manage that. You've got to manage some of the veterans, some of the up and coming players, and how you find the right fit. I still think there's a role in this team for Alex Morgan. I think a lot of people I don't know why she became the whipping child for so many in USWNT Bird app action. Like,
it was weird.
It's just turned that way so quickly. Weird. Her game has evolved. She's not the same player she was. She is more of a target 9 that players can run off of. And I think there's a role for that. It might not be as a starter anymore, though. And it might not get you to the next World Cup. It might not get you to the Olympics. And that's the challenge, because you're going to have to make those tough decisions. But I think managing the people and managing the disappointment that will come from not going to the Olympics will be the hardest thing for Emma Hayes right now. She gets it in the sense that this team can't just show up and expect to win. Those days are gone. They were gone in 2019, and a lot of people didn't realize it. They're gone. Spain is better. France is maybe better at times. England is better at times. Germany can be better. Sweden can be better. Australia's not far off. I mean, there's a lot of competition.
Which is who they played
Dutch, the Dutch are close, although I think their golden generation, they're starting to lose them a little bit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talented teams. So you got to be at your best to win these games, and it is going to come down to tactics. So what she ends up settling on for the identity of this team, it's going to be a fun ride. She's going to make some people mad, which is a good thing. Is a very good thing in the women's
besides
game
the French.
Oh, she'll make the French mad for sure. She'll make the English mad too. She'll make the Spanish mad. She's gonna make them all mad.
But Spanish.
That's what she does. She is very, maybe at times to a fault, like very open, very outspoken. It's a good thing for the women's game in this country. And I think we're going to get what we expected we'd see with Latko Andonovski, and just never happened. Another good coach who it just didn't quite happen for him. He was the perfect hire at that time. He didn't progress the team the way that they needed to. And I think with him, you did see tactical issues. You did see things that were not working. But he did also, I think, bring tactics to the conversation, because in the past you didn't have them. There wasn't much with tactics with 2015 and 2019. There just wasn't. And in the past there wasn't. And it's the biggest issue with American players going to Europe, where the game is very tactical. women's players in this country, and to a lesser extent men, but I think that gap is closed a good bit. Tactics aren't developed in this game. Like soccer IQ isn't developed in this country the way that it needs to be. It's not purely pace and power that get it done. It's not purely technique that gets it done. I think that was a big criticism for a long time, is that our players weren't technical enough. That's not true anymore. It's the understanding of the way the game is played. It's the understanding of different tactical models. Yeah,
at the barbecue place, like when we did your show. Yeah, it's very much like a thing that has to be ingrained in the culture, and it's just not there yet.
Exactly.
I think in the women's game, it's more pronounced. So that is maybe the biggest thing that she can do to grow the women's soccer culture in this country, is talk about game models, talk about things tactically. And she's not the technical director, so she's not going to go and meet with all these pro coaches and academy directors and things, but she can have a voice in changing the way that young girls are developed in this country as soccer 100%. Players. And it's going to be really important for her to do that.
100%. Here for it. I'm here for it. Jason, yeah, sure will be. Jason, really appreciate it as always. Your insight, your analysis, your opinions. You love it. The viewers, listeners love it. And yeah, as always.
The ones who aren't like yelling and hate tweeting at me. Like, exactly. I'm sure somebody is out there.
Yeah. No, but
always get that though. It's okay.
Yeah.
It happens. Look, I made the decision a long time ago, one, to stop paying as much attention to the social media and what people say. And, like, my job is not what a lot of people think it is. I do work for the team. I do travel with the team. I'm around the team a lot. I also feel the things that are happening and the disappointment, the absolute sadness that somebody like Gonzalo and his staff have lost their jobs. They have always been so good to us. We're really lucky that, like, it doesn't even compare to previous coaching staffs with the club. So like, my job is not to deliver hot takes on the radio or on social media. My job is to talk about what I'm seeing and talk about why I think things are the way that they are. And I'm going to always do that. I'm not trying to say what I think people want me to say. I'm going to say what I'm seeing. And if it's not the same thing, that's okay. You can disagree. It's completely cool, but I'm going to be thorough in telling you why I feel the way that I feel. And that's all I can do. And if that rubs people the wrong way, then there's nothing I can do about it.
It be what it be.
That's what it is. That's what it is. Jason, really appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming on. And let's do it again really soon.
Anytime. Just let me know when y'all need me.
Yes, sir. You got it.
Have fun watching TST.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's some late games coming up, so I'm excited.
Yep.
See y'all.
Appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks, Jason. We'll see you soon. We got to get a TST team next year.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I got a lot of training to do between now and
11. Yeah, a lot of you and me both. But yeah, any final thoughts? Anything before you get out of here?
No, I mean, I think it was a great conversation. I think, I always love talking to Jason. I could sit here and I'm one of those people like him, like all of us, that could sit here and have these tactics and, the philosophical conversations about this game for hours, because I love it. That's just how it is. And if I didn't love it, I probably wouldn't be doing this show and Scarves and Spikes and like everything about it. So no, I always love having Jason on. Yes. I think he gave some good insight. And at the end of the day, what happens in the next couple of weeks, nobody can predict, but I think we've all over the past 3 or 4 days laid out a pretty decent hypothetical roadmap of what could happen.
Right. So guess that's it. ScarvesandSpikes.com, Patreon.com/ScarvesandSpikes. We're at X, we're on Instagram, we're on Spaces to some extent. Again, if you aren't already subscribed on YouTube, do that. As we're speaking right now, we're just sort of 1,000 subscribers. Really appreciate you guys. Really appreciate you listening, watching, etc. Tell a friend. Tell an enemy. Tell an acquaintance about us.
Tell them all.
Tell everybody. everybody you can. Tommy will be back next week when his power's back, hopefully. So,
which is maybe if we get to 1,000 subs by then, we can help pay for his light bill.
Hey,
he's gonna come back next week and be like, "Why is everybody calling me an impoverished Ohio?"
No, but thanks everybody. We appreciate you. We love you. Thanks for the support. For your interactions as always. Like and subscribe. Tell a friend. Everybody you know. So definitely getting Jarrett as a goalkeeper for this TST team. Jarrett Smith. 100%. Man can stretch his arms out. And we'll be okay. Need that big, tall presence between the sticks. Yep. Not bald. He's not bald, but that's okay. Very much not bald. I can be the big midfielder. Keyword on big. Stress on big. Box to box, baby. Right. Exactly. I'll be out there for like 15 seconds before needing a break. All right. That's all, everyone. It's me breathing, thinking about running that much again. I don't know what you were doing at first, but be careful. All right. Cheers. See y'all.